Here we have a new 2024 Nissan Altima. This Altima comes in the SV trim level in gun metallic. And then we have charcoal cloth interior. The powertrain consists of a 2.5 liter naturally aspirated 4-cylinder engine. That's mated to Nissan's Xtronic CVT. And that gives us 188 horsepower, 180 pound-feet of torque. Now, as we get around to the front end here, I actually love the styling that carried over from 23. First of all, we have LED headlamps and LED daytime running lights, but I like how they kind of piano blacked out everything grill-wise and just on the sides there where the fog lamps would be, instead of making it look cheap with that kind of vinyl plastic there. So I think it makes a world of difference in making this car look sleek. And down here we have 17-inch alloy wheels. I think those look good as well. We get passive keyless entry on the front doors. Blind spot monitor indicators there. Now we have power door lock controls here, rear window lock, power mirror controls. You can pick a side, offset in the middle, and adjust using that dial. And then you have one touch automatic up and down for the driver's side window, just regular power windows on the other 3 doors. Bottle holder here, little map pocket, hood release. We have a foot pedal brake for the parking brake. And then that releases the gas cap. So if you all are worried about not having a lockable one, this Altima does have that if you think someone might be siphoning your gas. And then we have the trunk release here, brightness for the gauge cluster, trip meter. And then here's the release for our manual tilt and telescoping steering wheel. Here we have the power driver's seat. Now I have that seat up front adjusted for someone of my size, being 6'3" with longer legs. But before we check out the rear seat room, big shout out to John Roberts Nissan here in Manchester, Tennessee, for allowing me to review this Altima today. I'll leave a link below in the description of this car, as well as their entire new vehicle inventory. And there's our sticker price, $28,175. Well, let's go ahead and check out this rear seat room. So pretty impressive space back here. Again, with the seat up front adjusted for someone of my size. I'm surprised my legs are just barely touching the back of the seat here. I think a lot of it has to do with just how simple the seat is itself. But you can also, you can push through the back here. It's not like plastic stopping your kneecap, so that helps. Now down here we have a USB-C and a USB-A charge port. And we only have that seat back pocket on the passenger side, but I'm actually surprised that we have this fold down middle seat that has the bottle holders in it. And then the grab handle here. Let's go ahead and make our way towards the back. Now where I pop the gas cap, there that is there. And there's the view of the rear end. Now we can pop the trunk from up front, or we have a button right there. And there's a trunk space, and we have quite a bit of it. And these pull down, we can hang bags or something on them. And then you can pull this on either side to release the rear seat to fold that down. And we have the jack here. And there's a spare donut underneath. And then we'll just take a quick look underneath the vehicle. There's that dual exhaust system. And I like how the parking sensors are integrated into the bumper there. You can barely see them unless you're looking for them. But once you hit that release in the back, just pull the seat down, and that'll almost fold flat, and you can run longer objects through to the front if you need to. And it's pretty easy to just lock it back into place. And then you have your top tethers up here, lower anchors back here. And then to the front passenger seat, we have a manual seat back, manual seat bottom control there, and then our glove compartment right in there. And I like this trim. It's a subtle touch, but it makes it look super premium up front. And there are the owner's manuals and whatnot. Now as we come back around to the front, we're just gonna take a look underneath the hood. There's that 2.5 liter 4-cylinder. But now let's go ahead and hop in the driver's seat. So vinyl plastic wrap steering wheel here. There's the horn. Now over here to the radio, we get an 8-inch screen here. So for audio, that gives you AM, FM, XM, along with Bluetooth. And then you have an aux input, USB ports for your wired CarPlay and Android Auto compatibility. So one thing I like about the system here is really not too much going on, but everything you need is readily available and easy to use. So to add a Bluetooth device, just search for that. It'll walk you right through it. On your phone, you can customize your menus, adjust your sound, just everything is where it should be. You don't have to go digging for stuff. Brightness can be adjusted there. And then you have a scroll bar here. And depending on what you're doing, you can use that as a scroll bar. And then it turns into a tune knob there. The volume can be turned up. You can turn the audio off there. Backup cameras here with guidelines that follow you as you turn the steering wheel. Hazards there. And then down here we have the single zone manual climate control, so we can adjust fan speed, turn it all the way off, adjust temperature there, fan direction here, AC toggle, defrosters there. And then you have a USB-C and a USB-A port. That's for your USBs to run the Apple CarPlay, Android Auto. Then that aux input's there as well. There's a 12-volt. And then for the shifter, pull the lever here, reverse, neutral, drive. You have your low gear. And then when you're in drive, you can toggle the sport mode by hitting this button here. Kind of in a weird position, but yeah, right there. Bottle holders here. Center console cubby space, decent size, especially for a mid-sized car like this. There's a look at the back seat from up here. Sunglasses holder. Now back to the steering wheel. Blinkers. When the headlamps are on, high beams, flash there. Corners off, auto. And then over here we have the windshield wiper control. So one time, off, intermittent, low, high. We can adjust the intermittent here. And then pull up here for the front wiper fluid. And then volume can be adjusted here. You can go through your track list or radio station presets there. And then over here we have the cruise control. We just get standard cruise here, so we can turn that on or off, cancel, set the speed. Then we have voice recognition, Bluetooth button there. Now all this here in this back button is to go through the digital part of your gauge cluster. So you can go through settings, change your units for anything. And I like that it's easy to go through as well. Just a very simple system. So units can be changed here, and so can your language. And then within the info settings, you can see your trip meters, tire pressure sensors, and then fuel economy there, and there's your home page there. So a pretty simple setup all in all for this car. And I feel like if you're in the market for something like this, you're gonna appreciate just how easy it is to get used to it. There's the push button start. Here's the key fob with remote start. But next, let's go ahead and take this 2024 Nissan Altima SV out on the road for a test drive. So starting the test drive in this Altima here, the 2.5 is pretty good in terms of getting up to speed. Now, the VC Turbo is a monster. You put your foot into it, but for most people in this segment, I think this will be more than enough power for you. We're gonna put it into sport mode, see how it drives. So it just wants to rev a little hotter in general. And with this CVT and just with how this engine throws down, it's relatively quick. Specifically in that sport mode, just keeping the transmission revs higher, if that makes sense, the gear ratio or whatever you want to call it. And the sound acoustics in here are pretty good. I'm not hearing any unusual rattling or anything like that, except for the license plate I have in the rear window. And this is a pretty bumpy road. A lot of 18-wheelers come through here. But an easy vehicle to drive. I think a lot of people in this segment will appreciate that for that reason. You can just get behind the wheel of one of these, even if you're renting it out of town or something, you've never driven one, it's just easy to get the hang of. It's not like you have to do this, you have to get a rundown of the car before you take the keys. You can just get in and it drives like anything you're used to driving. And then one of the best things about this is you're getting almost 40 miles per gallon on the highway. But when you think about it, it's like the best of both worlds as Altima is. You have pretty good acceleration for a naturally aspirated 4-cylinder through the CVT, but also the CVT allows you to get, again, almost 40 miles per gallon on the highway, just being continuously variable. I'm gonna recline my seat a little bit so we can get that full angle. I like to recline the seat so we can get a clearer picture, but I tend to like to sit straight up when I'm driving, but then we'd just be looking at the sun visor here, so I try not to do that when I remember. But again, it's an easy car to drive. It checks all the boxes. It's not super smooth, but it's not a rough ride either. It's just solid. That's the best way to describe it. The steering dynamics I like. I would like a little less play in the wheel, but I think people in this segment are going to appreciate that more because this is not a sports car. But it also doesn't feel overly flimsy here either. I mean, the brake pedal feels normal, gas pedal feels normal. I'm going to put in a sport mode and give it a little pull here. And only about a third throttle. So again, having the CVT not having shift points just helps the acceleration in this car. And then again, when you're just cruising, it helps with your fuel economy. Just sipping the least amount of gas possible. Now we're still in sport mode here, and we're going to use that to get on the interstate, and then we're going to put it back into the normal drive mode and just see about this fuel economy coming down the interstate. And again, not even close to flooring it, so it has more in it, but gets up to speed with ease, I think. Now with this being the SV trim, we don't have the full-on lane centering system or intelligent cruise control, but we do have the blind spot monitors, which I think is a big plus. Especially on the interstate, it's just nice to have that. And again, the ride quality here isn't overly smooth. Just a tad bit of road noise. Nothing that's gonna bother anybody. I notice it. And sound acoustics in the cabin are pretty great, I think. But ride is, again, it's solid. I feel like I can feel the road, but it's also not super uncomfortable in terms of feeling the road. Now for the money, you could get a comparable Camry maybe, even the 24 Malibu, and then there's the Sonata, which I think is supposed to get a a redesign for 24. But I mean, unless you get a hybrid, this is one of the best performing four-door sedans out there in terms of fuel economy. And I think Nissan has a bit more experience with the CVT as opposed to everyone else, and it shows just with having the Xtronic here. You're able to get power when you need it and not necessarily have your ears pierced by the sound you're getting from the powertrain. But I want to give one more thank you to John Roberts Nissan here in Manchester, Tennessee, for allowing me to review this Altima today. Again, I'll leave a link below in the description if it's still available. But this will bring me to the end of my review of this 2024 Nissan Altima SV.